Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do an update or part 3 to the story I covered about 3 weeks ago, which is titled, My Ex is Furious that I could easily replace her, so she's getting revenge in the worst way. And as a recap, that's about the guy over in the UK, I believe he's in his early 50s, mid-50s or so, and he shared his story, a long one, about his ex, who they got together. She was like 9 years older than him, but they clicked. He found her very attractive, and eventually they had a daughter together. And for whatever reason, I can't recall, eventually she wanted to end it. They weren't married, but they were together raising the daughter. And the guy moved on, started dating, and she lost her freaking mind. What nuts that he could so easily replace her, because the guy, well, it's a lot easier for a guy to replace a woman in his 40s and a woman to replace a guy in her 40s. And she embarked on a crusade, if you will, to make his life a living hell in terms of the separation with the daughter and all that, and did the worst thing possible, turn the daughter against him. I mean, this woman, I called her Medusa in the story because it was quite appropriate. Pure evil. And he went through his whole story there, and ending with, basically, he hasn't talked to his daughter in years. He's made attempts, but she's not interested. Clearly her mind was poisoned by Mommy Dearest, amongst many things. And he shared his whole story, and I shared my opinion on that. And lots of you guys commented about that. A lot of you guys are frustrated that he didn't fight harder for his daughter, stuff like that. So he's writing in, continuing on, adding more to the story, what was going on, responding to questions. And I really think this guy deserves to be heard. And that's why I'm doing this big update here. It's rather long. And so hopefully we can help him out, because some things that he wanted to elaborate on, and I know a lot of you guys were interested in the story here, so I really felt that he deserved to be heard, and that's why I'm covering it again. And again, you can see it's long, but there's a lot going in the story here. So jumping into it, he says, Hi SSM. Like many of your subscribers, my daily routine consists of listening to your videos on my journeys to and from work. So imagine my shock and surprise when I suddenly realized that what I was listening to yesterday morning was my recent account of my relationship experiences over the last 20 plus years. I guess, I never really think about that, guys, how it must be something that you send the story in, and then time goes by, because it takes me some time to get to your stories, and you're going to work, and all of a sudden, boom, your story's on YouTube. Thank you for taking the time to read my story, my ex was furious story, even though hearing it read by someone else brought back some very dark moments in my life. It was obvious from your reaction that you truly understood what I had gone through as well. Well, I tried to understand as best I could and be empathetic. I don't know what it's like to have a daughter. I don't know what it's like a lot of these things, but I try to have empathy. Amusingly, later that morning, whilst I was in the middle of part 2, one of my good friends, who's the person that knows every single detail of the situations regarding Medusa and Dorothy, phoned and said to me that you're on SSM. I laughed and said that I knew and was already listening to part 2, and asked if he had watched them both yet. And he said that he had only actually listened to the first 5 minutes of part 1, where he instantly realized it was me and got straight on the phone in case I wasn't aware. For clarity, the reason why he was able to spot that it was my story within just a few minutes was that not only had I told him that I sent in the story, but also sent him a copy as well. I would also at this point like to take the opportunity to give him a shout out for all the help and support he has provided over the years. He is literally my brother from another mother. Well, shout out to the mystery bro that has helped this guy out. This is why I say, guys, it's better to have one or two just really close guy friends that you can truly trust, that has your back, than having 100 people that you can, have fun with, but you don't quite get, and also that you can't quite trust, or, there could be issues. And this is why you never trade hoes for bros, because it's worth everything in gold. Afterwards, holy crap, my voice. After watching part 2, I then spent all afternoon reading the comments. Yeah, it would take you a whole day to read the comments, where I was somewhat surprised at the backlash from many of your subscribers. Some even suggested that the story was made up. In fact, it almost felt like the Reddit brigade has invaded the SSM site, where I was called weak and a simp many times. Even by some that admitted that they hadn't even bothered to watch the whole videos in full, obviously a case of too long, didn't watch, but still felt the need to comment without all the facts. Bro, it's YouTube, that is going to happen. Lots of great people in this community, good guys, but I'm going to get people all over. They're going to stumble upon the video, or I get people that are maybe maybe a little impatient. They don't hear the whole thing, But and Redditors come over here too, And not to mention, I got a lot of people that hate me. They just want to come over here to stir up shit. It is what it is. Don't let it bother you. I will certainly agree with that being the case with Dorothy, as I did everything I possibly could to try and make it work, as she was not only hot, but because of the lack of sex in my previous relationship. Suddenly hooking up with a gorgeous Latina meant that I didn't want to go back to that dry spell. So I simped hard before realizing that she was the devil incarnate and that I needed her out of my life ASAP, where she was kicked to the curb in a matter of months. Dorothy is the one that after things broke up with him and Medusa, he went on to Dorothy, and he had his bedroom fun and all that, but she was just another a-hole. You know? And by the way, he's attached pictures to this story of what everybody looks like. I see what Medusa looks like. I see what Dorothy looks like. I see what the current woman he's been with for the last 10 years look like. I see what his daughter looks like. And I'll take a moment to say that Dorothy, who he's talking about here, was good looking. And certainly when he was on that dry spell with Medusa, yeah, it was nice to get some, but there was a price. And Medusa looks good too. But Medusa, his ex, the baby mama, you can tell in her pictures, even like when they first got together, while she was pretty, definitely has a masculine presence to her. So given her behavior, it didn't surprise me. And then the current woman he's with now, I think it's from Chile, she's pretty too. So I'll give him credit. He gets good looking women. And then his daughter's a cutie. Well, the daughter's pictures when she was young. Anyhow. However, with regard to my relationship with Medusa, I gave as good as I got, and everything about being together was equal. My preference has always been for women who have strong characters. Well, I can tell by looking at the body language and facial expressions of Medusa. Oh, she's strong. I told you she looks masculine. I don't enjoy types of relationships, preferring to be challenged where necessarily, and I do likewise. I look for equality, both intellectually and mentally. I know what you're going to say. How did that work out for you this time, LOL? Yeah, exactly. And when you say equality, I think you meant we have things in common. Someone that's on my level. I get that. But, remember, Medusa, I believe, was highly educated. When I say educated, I mean in terms of degrees and everything like that. And usually those types have massive fucking egos and are ball busters, and you get the point. And again, educated, I use that term loosely. Many accuse me of simping just because I stayed with her even when there was a lack of the physical side. However, I remained not just because of my love for my daughter, but also because we had a very good life together. Yeah, but you weren't getting any. That's the problem. A man has needs, and that's an issue. And clearly she didn't care enough about you to take care of that. And she obviously wasn't attracted to you enough to want to. Because guess what? Your girl now you've been with for like 10 years from Chile, I'm sure she's more than happy to accommodate you in the bedroom because she has an attraction for you. Clearly Medusa did not once the daughter was born. By that, I mean every other aspect was healthy. We both had our own hobbies and interests. She also played for the county badminton team, something she'd done since university, which obviously kept her fit. A badminton team, huh? We had a shared passion for cars. That is extremely rare in the UK, and something I've not have had before or since. Most women are not into cars in the way that men are. Well, what did I tell you about the masculine side to her? We both were financially solvent, both in jobs that we loved. It was just really easy, with no hardships at all, other than the lack of sex. I'm sure that men of an older age will understand what it is like with women when they go through menopause, and those that don't will have the joy to look forward to one day. Well, usually when they go through menopause, that's when they stop being as frisky, and there's hormonal things going on there, but still. If she really loved you, she'd be making the effort. I was also accused of being crazy to date an older woman, even by SSM. So here's some pictures, blah, 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 blah. And I saw the pictures and I reviewed the pictures. I judged her by how good she looked, not her age. Obviously because they were from 2001, 2002, they're not particularly good quality, having been taken on the potato. Naturally, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so you may or not find her attractive. I think she's good looking for her age back then, the pictures she showed me, but like I said, I could tell by her body language and the facial expressions, there was just this masculine aura about her, and to me, that's a fucking turnoff, okay? I would take a woman that's just very feminine and not as physically appealing than taking a woman that is physically darn good looking, but is masculine. And I think you guys understand what I'm talking about here. Any day, if I could have a girl, you could have a girl who's an 8, looks and body type department, but was masculine as fuck. The second she opened her mouth, you could tell by her body language, and it was that type, versus a gal that was a 6, but unbelievably feminine. I'd take the 6 any day of the goddamn week. As you can see, whether you find her attractive or not, she doesn't look 9 years older than me. Either that or I had really tough paper round. Yeah, you looked about the same age. Anyway, the best analogy for how our relationship went downhill is the boiling frog experiment, which I know you referred to in many of your videos. What he's talking about, guys, in case you don't know, it's like the thing like, boiling water, you throw a frog in it, and the frog's going to jump the hell out. You put the frog in just regular warm water and slowly turn it up. The frog is like no big deal and sadly boiled to death. That's what happened here, and that's what happens to a lot of guys. The bullshit is slow and slow and slow and slow, and then the next thing you wake up and you're boiling alive. It just deteriorated at such a slow rate over such a long period of time. It went virtually unnoticed. When the SCX stopped, she did make it clear that it was due to the menopause and was even on HRT, but despite this, it made no difference to her sexual appetite. Like many of the relationship stories you recount, when I used to try and initiate any kind of relations, she would not deny me, but it was like making out with a mannequin. There was no lustful reciprocation. She was clearly not interested in it at all, and I'm the kind of person that only gets enjoyment out of reciprocated intimacy. It has to be enjoyed by both parties. Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to make out with a mannequin. So she was just laying there like, fine, do me. Pretty soon the Queen will be on to make a speech. I don't know, I gotta make a British joke somehow. Bad joke. Anyhow, Queen's dead. But when the Queen was alive, now what the fuck is his name now? King Charles. King Charlie. So, after experiencing this enough times and feeling physically rejected, her lack of interest in SCX completely turned me off from even trying from then on. Obviously, she never subsequently initiated anything either. Yeah, exactly. That was on purpose. And you know what? A man has needs. Period. If you didn't have needs, if you were perfectly cool then that would have been different. The only reason that I did finally wake up and smell the coffee was the meetup with Anne, and it was this that made me realize that I wasn't actually happy, and that I just carried on the relationship because of Katie and how easy it was to do so. Katie's his daughter. I was existing, not living. I guess when you have everything else in your life going well, you can overlook certain things just because it's convenient to maintain the status quo. Well, bro, to be honest, that's most marriages, I have found. At the time, I tried to look at it as pragmatically as possible. I had one thing missing, but everything else, or so it felt most of the time, made up for it. And I certainly wasn't going to risk losing the relationship that I had with my daughter, or something that I gradually learned to live without. Well, it wasn't just the sex, man. If she was just laying there like a freaking mannequin the whole time, and wasn't reciprocating and certainly not initiating, it was more than just the physical part. Okay, clearly she wasn't into you or in love with you. I know you may not want to accept that or don't see that yet, but I'm telling you, a woman that loves you, even if you're not you're hooking up because maybe the menopause and all, she still wants to touch you. She still wants to kiss you. And I bet you probably weren't holding hands out in public. I bet when you're on the couch watching shows or Netflix, she wasn't sitting near you. I bet you were on the opposite sides of the couch. You probably never held hands, never kissed, never I love yous. You know what I mean? And you needed that. I was also constantly criticized for being less than financially astute. Aha. I did point out that I live a regularly frugal lifestyle. I still own the same 2 cars I had for the last 10 years. I'm also fortunate to have a company vehicle for daily use. A motorbike, which I've owned for 7+ years, all of which are bought and paid for. Although I still own the same house, I only have a few more years left in the mortgage. Not owned outright as SSM occasionally suggested. I did explain that I stretch myself to the maximum that a single person can afford. To go into more detail, to get the size of the house I wanting to maintain a nice environment for Katie, I had to put down a significant deposit, 30%, and along with the stamp duty, a UK house purchase tax, solicitor's costs, etc. This amounted to almost the 10% of the property value. Once I moved in, I spent several thousand turning the house into my home. As you can imagine, with such a large upfront cost, it cleared me out financially for several years. As a recent house buyer, I'm sure SSM understands the costs involved. You're damn right there, dude. I've always lived in condos until I bought the house here in Florida, and I love it. Everything I wanted. Truly, the stars were aligned. I got so fucking lucky with this place. First house I looked at, I got it. But, yeah. And I put in a massive fucking down payment down because I want to get this thing paid off in a few years. But there's closing costs, and obviously you got property taxes. You got every year. You got insurance. And down in Florida, as you Floridians know, your homeowner's insurance, quite expensive. There's the HOA fees. I live in a fantastic HOA. A lot of them are tyrants. This place is good. What else? Flood insurance. And then there's all the other shit, renovations and everything around the property, things that I wanted. And then there's just owning a big house and shit happens. So yeah, there's a lot involved in that. But you have the equity that builds up over time, especially if you're in a high demand area. But yes, I know all about it. Again, you go from a 1,200 square foot condo to a 2,900 square foot house. It's a big fucking difference. And the more rooms you got, the more you have to deal with things. So I understand. Anyway, it says here, I have no other debt and all my assets are in my name only. Good, dude. My credit card is also paid off and at the end of each month via direct debit and has been so since I was 18 years old. Good. I'm glad you got no credit card debt. I always live with my means, do my own thing, and make no attempt to keep up with the Joneses. Now, hopefully, those criticizing my financial acumen can say the same or better. Yeah, you can only say so much in your previous story, dude, and you wanted to keep that house. Obviously, when I was with Medusa, things were different. Because we both of us being high earners and sharing the cost of everything equally, I had far larger disposable income then than I do right now. Yeah, because she was living in the house and both of you were bringing in the income, so there's way more money to have for various things, of course. It says, mainly because my mortgage payments are so high in an effort to get this paid off ASAP. But I've always taught to cut my cloth accordingly, so I've always lived within my means. Good, because most people don't. As it was with Medusa and all my past relationships, Marcia's his current girlfriend, he's had for like a decade, and is a good one for him. Marcia and I have retained our separate finances. However, as she works in the fashion industry, she doesn't earn a huge amount, but has been astute with her money and her own properties in Brazil that she also gets an income from, so we live comfortably. If you got a woman that is smart with money and is frugal and all that, pat yourself on the back. I mean, seriously, because that's rare. Okay, she's from Brazil, not Chile. It was also suggested many times that Katie might not be mine and I should carry out a paternity test. Obviously, this is likely mentioned from the point of view that people that are under the misapprehension that these are all recent events. They are not. This is all from over 10 years ago, and even if Katie came back into my life now, agreed to a DNA test that subsequently proved I wasn't the father, I can't change what already has gone by. Right. It's not like she's around for him to do a DNA test. However, despite that, I'm pretty sure she is mine. Because of my reasonably rare hair coloring, I'm blonde, blue-eyed, and although Medusa was a blonde when we met, her hair color comes out of a bottle, where mine is natural, and Katie takes after me in that regard. Yeah, this guy's blonde hair. This dude kind of looks like, there's some pictures of him from the different women in his life, and there's one of him in the tuxedo. It looks like fucking Daniel Craig as James Bond. You British guys look like James Bond. His daughter's a little blonde. She's a cutie. Back when she was young. Also, a few mentioned that I should have divorced her straight away. Clearly, I skipped several parts of the video. As I would reiterate again, we were never married. In fact, despite my parents still being together and having been brought up properly with good morals, I had an amazing childhood, I have never been married. It was also suggested I should have tried harder to maintain my relationship with Katie. Well, it was a tough situation with Katie, but you were fighting off the fucking Gorgon, Medusa. This is fair to a certain extent, but I don't know how it is in the U.S., but here in the U.K., if you are not married, the father has even less of a chance of persuading the courts that the best place for the child is with their father. The only way it would happen is if there was ample proof of endangerment, drugs, physical abuse, and the like. The mother-daughter relationship always trumps the father-daughter one, even more if there is no marriage to begin with. Okay, there you go. Yeah. They never got married, so it was even harder for him to get custody of the girl. And I guarantee you, Medusa knew this. I thought I had adequately explained that if I had chosen to go down the legal route, not only would it have financially ruined me, but I would have also gained no additional access than I was originally given by the CSA. Every other weekend in this country is the norm, and when fighting for access, you will never get granted more than if the mother chooses to fight you over it. The courts in this country see the mother as the most important part of any child's upbringing, and fathers are treated as second-class citizens. There you go. And that's why, obviously, along with the fact they never married, he didn't pursue this, and he's going to get more into this. Yeah. And people wonder why so many guys aren't getting married nowadays. The second-class citizen crap. When there's true equality, then you may have more guys thinking about doing this. Not only that, but I can assure you and those that are watching, I had realized by this time, Medusa did all this because she wanted me to fight it legally. As she knew that by doing so, she could maneuver me into a position where I end up with nothing, selling the cars, the house, and going into debt, where I would no longer be deemed a marketable asset to other women. I'm not stupid, I know how it works in the real world, and that could potentially also have been with no actual improvement in the situation with Katie. In other words, you'd be fighting a losing battle, but doing what you did, you kept some of your wealth, because that's allowed. But if you fought, you would very likely lose and be broke and all that, and she wanted that, and therefore never get a woman. Yeah, and this is why I said Medusa never loved you. I think you came along at the time of her life that she was ready to settle, and you had interest, and you could have fun together, but I believe that she didn't love you. I don't think she ever loved you, dude. I'm sorry to say that. Or in love with you, you know? Right place, right time. You had Katie, and that's how easily he was able to part ways. That's how easily it was for her to reject you, or at least just lay there like a mannequin when you hooked up and get nothing back. I'm sorry to say that, man. But you know what? That could sting me saying that, but hey, you got your girl, I think you said her name is Marcia. I think there's so many goddamn names in this story, it's hard to keep track. But the girl you're with now, clearly she shows you love and good treatment. So in the end, you won. You just got to hopefully one day have Katie back in your life. But she has to come and get you back. Anyway, he says, the fact that this backfired by my unwillingness to engage in a financial battle is why I believe that she continually escalated it further, making it more and more difficult for me to see Katie. As an attempt to break me and entice me into this battle, she knew, and thankfully so did I could never win. However, when she realized that she couldn't get me to engage with her attempt to ruin me financially, she would instead try to do so emotionally. That's why I called the bitch Medusa, because she's fucking evil. Needed Perseus to fly in on Pegasus and chop the bitch's head off. Being a logical person, I weighed up every option and played each scenario out in my mind to the most likely conclusion. Even if I'd gone down this route and lost everything financially, but won in court, I would no longer have the type of home environment that Katie would then be able to spend any quality time with me, and certainly no friends, sleepovers, etc. What also put me off going down this route is my friend's circumstances that I previously mentioned. I didn't originally go into any great detail other than the financial cost, as I didn't think I would have to defend that aspect. However, the reason why it ended up being this expensive is that although he originally won in court, where his ex was originally denying him all visitation rights, and she was subsequently ordered to give him access every other weekend. She then played the system expertly, like only a woman can get away with, where she did almost everything that Medusa did, but even defied the courts, and they did nothing but gave her the verbal reprimand each time. His boys were much younger than Katie, and when he would go to pick them up, she would then play the same games Medusa did, saying they were ill, out with friends, or even just flatly refused him access. So although his rights had been granted by the courts, she would make him to get a solicitor to complain to the courts that he was not granted access, whereas she would turn up in court and just tell the judge the same thing, that they were ill, out playing, etc., and the judge would just verbally tell her off for no repercussions. After this happened the first time, she knew she could pull this shit off with absolutely no consequences. She did this for almost a year, where my friend had to employ his solicitor to make a court date each time, which would take 6 to 8 weeks to get a hearing, so in that period, he wasn't seeing his kids at all, despite the court-granted access. I think he's talking about his friend here. And then the judge would do nothing other than tell her that she had to let the father have access as mandated by the court. She would then apologize profusely, shed a few tears, give what appeared to the judge to be justifiable reasons, and it was nearly always a different judge at the hearings. She'd get away with scot-free every single time. There you go. It only changed when she got caught pulling the same excuses with the same judge, but this was months and months and months and thousands of pounds down the line. I also forgot to mention that he lost the house as well. Oh, man. Naturally, knowing how screwed the system was against men, it left me feeling that even ruining myself to force Medusa to give me access was no guarantee that I would still actively get to see Katie if Medusa chose to play the same games, which she would have done. Look, learn from other people's bad situations, and that's what you did. Given the shit she had already been pulling and my friend's experience, it was not a risk I was willing to take. Also, in this country, a child can choose who she wants to stay with once she turns 14. So even if I had won any court battle, Medusa could have poisoned Katie against me, like she clearly did. And I would still have ended up in the exact same situation that I am in right now, but just without my house, cars, and the whole heap of debt. Yeah. Your ex Medusa would have done anything she could, no matter what situation it is, you'd be harmed. Again, this why I said I'm absolutely convinced she was never in love with you. Ever. You just came along at the right place, right time to have a companion to share a place with, similar interests like cars, have a kid. And when she was done, that was it. And now she has to wreak havoc on everyone. Given that we can all see how this actually panned out, that would have been the worst decision of my life, and I'd gone down that route. If you actually watch both full videos in full, you would understand that I now have the luxury of looking back on all these events with hindsight, as this happened over 10 years ago, and Katie will be 22 at the beginning of next year. Bearing in mind that in all that time, she has never reached out to me, despite my attempts for the first 5 years to let her know I was always there for her. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, her mother did a hell of a job on her, but at the end of the day, Katie is now a fucking adult. Okay, and I know childhood shit can screw people up and carry into adulthood and carry oftentimes to the day people die. But I'm sure Katie remembered you being a good, fun dad. So it's to the point now, man, it's on her. Even to this day, I still play out the different scenarios in my mind of what I should have done to have fought harder for Katie. But despite this, I couldn't help but come back to the same conclusion that she could or should have given me some small indication that she even wanted me to fight for her. But the fact that I got not one message, email, or phone call from her throughout all that time made me believe that sacrificing my financial stability would have been for nothing. Very good point. The slightest hint of anything at all from her that she wanted to see me after all that happened would have been sufficient for me to dig in for the long haul, but I reiterate again, I got nothing. And again, I say be careful. If suddenly she comes back into your life and she's like, oh, I'm getting married, wanting daddy to pay for things or walk down the aisle, be careful. I told her on numerous occasions that she could always come home and live with me if she wanted to. But I guess in the beginning, she was that frightened of her mother that she felt this was not an option. And then later in life, she had been brainwashed into believing her mother's narrative. Yeah, she obviously, because from your previous story, how psycho your ex is and was, she was scaring the shit out of your poor daughter. And that must have just been so heartbreaking to know that was going on. Medusa, that's why I call the bitch Medusa. She's fucking evil. She had on the one hand me trying to make her life as pleasant and easy as possible, and on the other, Medusa making her life misery, even she mentioned me, let alone expressing any living preferences. So I can only assume that unsurprisingly and logically, to start with, she chose the easier path, knowing that there would be no repercussions for me, at least with the choice. Her subsequent lack of communication that convinced me also that as an adult, she's made her choice, and whether it was because she had been brainwashed or not, she has still chosen to remain no contact with me. Again, I can feel bad for her as a child, what her mother was doing to her, but now she's an adult, With regard to me saying that my relationship with Dorothy was the worst, don't forget with Medusa, other than the lack of sex while we were together, it was not a horrible relationship like it is reported with most. It just stagnated over time. We had a good life together, and her true colors only came out once we had split up. Until then, everything was as good as you could want until I started dating, where our relationship was well and truly over that point. The reason why I suggested that the relationship with Dorothy was the worst one I ever experienced is because almost from the get-go, after she moved in, she lied, gaslighted, and manipulated me and tried everything she could to control the relationship, none of which I've experienced in any ongoing situation before. Basically, as my friend pointed out, I was treated like a mark, where she was just out to get what she could from me. Once I woke up and realized what her game was, she was quickly kicked to the curb in a matter of months. Yeah, this was the girl after Medusa and you split up. And obviously, Dorothy saw weakness and exploited it. Yeah, you were getting some ass, but look at the price you paid. But I'm glad you kicked her to the curb. However, having never experienced that kind of blatant mistreatment of someone from the start, remember, as mentioned, Medusa only turned a complete a-hole after we were separated, I can safely say Dorothy was the worst person I had the misfortune to date. All my previous girlfriends have been normal, while the relationship has been ongoing. Look, man, we've all had wackos in our past. Also, to avoid any confusion, although Dorothy was Chilean, she had a UK citizenship, having gained this from her first marriage. Yes, there was more than one, and I met her in this country, not hers. As to the comment where someone suggested that I would soon be saying that Marcia was the worst person I dated, that isn't ever going to happen. We've been together for 10 years, in February 2025, and in that time, I've not seen one single red flag. Wow. Well, now you know what to look for watching these shows. Trust has constantly been checked and verified, and all of her friends and family are good people, and practically are all in the stable long-term relationships. Married and have been since I've known them. We naturally have normal disagreements like everyone does, but the relationship is a good one, and we both trust each other with mutual love and respect. She is still the same person I want to grow old with. Well, bro, that's great. After everything you've been through, you deserve to be with a chick who has all these great qualities. Loyal, loving, supportive, good family, a family where people are together. All these things. You deserve that, you know? And I'm willing to bet you, whenever you want to get some, you get some. And she's probably touchy-feely with you and affectionate. And I can tell by looking at the pictures of her, she's feminine. Looking at a picture of Medusa back in the day, she's good looking. I'll give you credit. Good looking for her age from those pictures you took. But I can just tell, I can see the masculine in her. But not Marcia. I don't see that masculine in Marcia. I can see the feminine in her. But it helps she's in the fashion industry. You earned this, man. But still, pay attention to red flags, because you never know what can come popping up. Never say never. In addition, considering the adversity she has faced in her life, her father dying in a work-related accident when she was just a few months old, and her other older brother dying in a motorcycle accident when she was 17, she has never once tried to tell me what I can and can't do. Rare in women. Good. Very good. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and so although I don't drink or smoke or do drugs, I do like to get my rush from the hobbies I enjoy. I ride motorbikes. She will come out with me if it's warm enough and shoot. I do track days. She has ridden shotgun many times despite making her feel sick, and she supports me in anything and everything I do, and I do likewise for her. Not only that, but also being Brazilian, she's very hot, as the pictures suggest. Yeah, she's good looking, dude. Cool. And it's interesting that you love riding motorcycles or motorbikes, and her brother died in an accident when he was 17 or whatever, when she was 17, but still she's not giving you a hard time about that because you love it, you know? I got a friend that he's a Harley guy, and he and his wife, they'll go out in the Harley whenever they can here in Florida, you know? They love it. And he's had some accidents. Hopefully that has answered most of the comments. If so, I'd like to thank everyone who gave me genuine, heartfelt support. It really meant a great deal to me. Particularly, I got a user named Michael James who took the time to write out a very detailed and lengthy post. Unfortunately, one of the points highlighted was sadly not the positive than he originally thought. This relates to the part of the video to do with the St. Christopher. Sadly, this was at a point where SSM commented, and when he returned to the email, he lost his place and missed out one of the crucial sentences. My bad. I apologize. What he missed out was 3052 in part 2, and this is him. What was missing from part 2 that I read. And it said, on the day that they met with Katie, my mother handed her the present and card, and she eagerly started to open it, thinking it was a gift from my parents. My mother stupidly told Katie that it was actually from me. She allegedly froze for a second, immediately stopped unwrapping the present, and placed both items in the bag. My mother, realizing the mistake she had made, pleaded with Kate to open both the present and the card, but she flatly refused and said she would open it at home. As you can see by missing out that one sentence, it completely changed the dynamic of what actually happened, and it's not the positive you actually thought. However, I appreciate the sentiment, and obviously, should Katie ever reach out to me, I at least have these videos to show her things from my perspective. Well, there you go. Yeah, you got proof of all these things in case she ever comes back. Although I believe she's been so brainwashed now, she will have all but forgotten the childhood with me. Fortunately, I have kept all the pictures and videos from Katie growing up on my own computer hard drive, which when we separated came away with me, and Medusa does not have access to any of these. Not much consolation, given that she has access to the real thing, and I have only pictures and great memories. So I'd like to conclude this with a massive thank you to SSM. I did notice that you gave this huge amount of your time and effort into recounting my woes. The support and empathy for my situation clearly came across and was certainly not lost to me. Well, you're welcome, brother. This is what I'm here for. Not wanting to end on a low note, as per the last video, I'd like to reiterate that despite the hole in my life left by Katie, my almost 10-year relationship with Medusa has been as good as it gets. I couldn't ask for a better wingman. All my friends and family adore her, and she brings out the best in me. Oh, I said Medusa. I meant Marcia. Medusa's fucking psycho. Marcia, the girl he's with now. All my friends and family adore her, and she brings out the best in me. We push each other to succeed at everything we do, love and respect each other deeply. That's great, man. You might also gain consolation like I do, that as far as I'm aware, Medusa is still alone. Of course she's alone. Who the fuck's going to want to be with her? I understand from what has filtered back to my parents from Katie that she dated someone of her own age around 2 years after we split up, but it didn't last long. He had grown-up children a lot older than Katie and still saw all of them. I like to imagine that the reason it ended is because when he asked about me, as invariably you do at some point, her bitter response, whatever it was, had him running for the hills. As the song goes, sweet dreams are made of these. Anyway, I doubt it was the update you wanted, but I felt that given the whooping I was getting in the comments section, I needed to clarify a few misconceptions. So okay, man, that's why I did this, because given your story, the situation, you earned a right to be heard and explain yourself and all that, and a lot of people took an interest in your story. One day I will recount the 6 months spent with Dorothy, which is a doozy. But given the smacks and abuse I definitely know I will deservedly get for the story, I need to recover from the memories that recounting all this has brought up, which has quite frankly left me frazzled. Stay safe, always trust but verify, and keep checking for those red flags. Amen. Well, you remember what you just said there. I'm glad you have a great relationship with Marcia. 10 years on multiple fronts. You deserve that. You really do, man. And again, I can tell in the picture she's feminine. While looking at Medusa, nope. But anyhow, yeah, trust but verify, pay attention to red flags, and keep living your life. And I don't know what's going to happen with Katie. Sadly, you may never hear from her again, or she may show up next week. You just never fucking know. But I trust, given your experience in life and what you've learned about yourself, what you learned from this channel from other people's stories, you'll handle it accordingly in the right way. But just be careful. If she comes back in your life and mentions, by the way, this is my fiance, I'm getting married. That's one of the classic examples, sadly, when a gal leaves her father's life because of the bullshit with her mother, whatever, and she's back because she's getting married and wants a dad to walk her down the aisle, put on the show for his family, pay for it. I don't mean to be so negative and cynical, but, you know, it happens. Just be aware of it. And if she does come back in your life, God damn it, she owes you a very heartfelt apology, and don't fall for the fucking waterworks. If she comes back into your life, she has to earn you back, just like in any other situation. Because remember, they always come back. It ain't just lovers either. She has to earn you back. Don't make it so easy. Really, she's an adult now. And yeah, Medusa obviously did her damage, and I feel bad for the little girl that was Katie years ago. But she's an adult now, you know? But anyhow, we shall see. And so if she does come back into your life, even if it's 5 years from now, email me. Let me know what's going on, how that whole thing played out. But again, don't make it so easy. And I trust that you will handle it accordingly. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let this guy know what you think. For those of you who watched the other videos and enjoyed it and tried to help him out, I appreciate that. Give him another shout out. Give him a little, show the guy some love because he needs it. And hopefully he'll be okay. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.